Today we are going to look at another microbrand, Swedish microbrand. Microbrand established back in 2011, and microbrand that tends to do all they do pretty great, almost. Today we are going to look at one of the most, maybe the absolutely most beautiful GMT I have ever seen. Let's check it. Believe it or not, I'm not the biggest fan of Rolex. I know a lot of guys that cannot afford Rolex would say that they are not a fan of Rolex, and I'm absolutely one of them. No, jokes aside, from the entire Rolex lineup, I actually really like only one watch, and I kinda like the other. The watch I kinda like is the Rolex Explorer, the classic one. The watch I absolutely like is the Rolex Explorer 2, GMT. That brush steel bezel, white dial, orange GMT hand is like, absolute banger. Yeah, that is probably the most beautiful GMT ever. It is also a watch that has been homaged, clomaged, or straight copied to death. And very few brands get it right. To capture the essence of the watch, the tooliness, the flashiness, universalness, if that's a word. It's not an easy thing to do. But I think this watch absolutely nails it. It is an obvious homage to Explorer 2, but with so much originality, so much changes, and so many design clues from other legends, that I think that this is the homage done right. Homage that takes the right amount of inspiration but doesn't copy. A little disclaimer, this watch is on loan to a channel from my dear friend Kiwi. Shout out Kiwi. And he got the watch when it came out with a Seiko NH34. Since then, Nezumi updated it with a Miyota 9075, the Traveler's GMT. And that's the only difference. Now, do yourself a favor and visit Nezumi's web. That is one of the things they do great. It's got its own style, delivers the message. You get the idea that the watch is very proud of its Swedish heritage and the fact that they assemble watches in Germany. I mean, if their web doesn't get you hyped up, then you probably have no soul, and I will try to get you hyped up with this video. Because, spoiler alert, there is not a lot of negatives to talk about here. I mean, just look at the packaging. That must be one of the coolest design boxes I have ever laid my hands on. It fits the style of the watch so well. You can clearly tell that somebody was thinking about it really hard and there was a lot of designing going into it. And it kind of makes the unboxing feel special. Starting traditionally with the bracelet the watch comes on. J-style all-brass 20mm bracelet with solid links, solid end links and quick release spring bars. And an OK clasp. I mean, it's not that bad. Milled lower, pressed upper, nicely signed, traditional micro adjustment holes rather than the on-the-fly adjustment that is now so popular. I could live with all that. The one thing I don't really like is the security follower. Feels a bit flimsy. There is a lot of play. It doesn't strike confidence, and it somehow in my mind doesn't really match the quality of the rest of the bracelet and especially the watch. But there is a caveat. My friend got the watch with the Nezumi rubber straps. 2 of them. One black and one color match to the dial. Damn! These are the absolute best rubber straps I ever tried. They are soft and subtle like silicone, but they don't pick up dirt like silicone. Yet they feel robust, rough, and like good quality like FKM rubber. But they are not as uncomfortable as FKM rubber. They are just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Another thing, they've done absolutely great. Okay, if I should be nitpicking, there is one thing that could make it perfecter. And that if the keeper had a keeper, you know, to keep the keeper from sliding. Like this one. Moving on to the more important thing. The case. And another thing done great. It is absolutely amazingly shaped case. It is entirely brushed, very nicely brushed. It is fine and consistent brushing all the way through. But there is enough shapes and twists to keep it visually interesting and not boring. The fixed, brushed, stainless steel 24 GMT bezel is just mwah. There's the thing, I strongly prefer this type of bezel on GMT watches to the 24 click rotating one. I will never truck more than an additional time zone, so this is perfect for me. And it looks better in my opinion. And look at the twisted lugs, straight from the Speedmaster. Beautifully finished screw down case back. This is how you finish case back. It's so well done. Very well proportioned and finished coin edge bezel screw down crown. It is nicely signed and it's got amazing grip. No more to say. The dimensions are 40mm in diameter, 47mm lug to lug and 13.6mm thick 20mm lug width, as the 20mm bracelet should have suggested you. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. These kind of dimensions will fit pretty much anybody. It wears true to its size and it looks good. One particular thing I really like is how the end links of the bracelet fit in the case. They kind of continue the twisted design of the lugs. It is great. From certain angles, it looks like a straight end link bracelet. From another, you see how it perfectly fits the case. Done great. I already mentioned that this particular one is powered by Seiko NH35, while the one you can buy now is Miyota 1975. Probably everybody watching this video will know the difference, but just to be sure, Seiko NH34 is a color GMT. You independently move the GMT hand, whereas the Miyota 1975 is, among the watch collectors, probably much more desirable. True GMT, traveler's GMT, whatever you want to call it, where you independently move the hour hand. Okay, and now the dial. And dude, that color. I mean, it's all good so far, but that color, yo, everything is printed here. Starting with the chapter ink, that on 5-minute marks has a 24-hour time, or military time for you Americans. I think that is actually a really neat touch. It kind of keeps the GMT theme going, while not cluttering the dial. How useful it is? That is a question, because it took me a while to notice it even. Then we have the very Explorer-like numerals at 12, 3, 6 and 9. And these buttons for the rest of the hour markers, with no cutout for date window, because there is no date on a GMT watch. Although the movement or movements used both have date. You know, because they're GMT movements that are, I don't know, quite often used for traveling when you're on vacation and when it's very important to know the date. So yes, there is, I was about to say ghost position, but it's not really ghost position, but because at that position you kind of set the GMT hand. So there is a ghost behavior. Yeah, you hear the date is clicking over, but nothing happens because, you know, no date. That would be very different with the Miyota powered models because, you know, you're kind of setting the date by moving the hour hand, so that wouldn't bother you probably so much. I mean, I get that they want to keep the dial symmetric and a lot of people actually prefer no date watches and blah and blah and blah. But for me in particular, that is the only thing why I cannot call it perfect GMT. To me, a perfect GMT has to have a date. Partly because when I'm on vacation, I tend to drink a bit and I tend to forget what date it is, and partly because I tend to forget what date it is all the time. Okay, moving on, let's look at the text on the dial. There is a Nezumi logo at 12 that everybody says looks good, but it reminds me of a San Martin logo that everybody hates, so I don't know what to say. I like it. And there is a Nezumi sign in capital letters and Stockholm underneath. It's all pretty small and neat, so it doesn't feel like too much, but I could honestly live without Stockholm there. I'm not Swedish, patriotism doesn't really hit me so hard, so. Aviera again in capital letters and depth rating at 6. 200-meter depth rating, by the way. And in yellow, or this orangey yellow, which is a bit strange. On most GMT watches, it would be the GMT sign in a different color that would match the GMT hand. Here's the depth rating matching the GMT hand. I mean, I don't mind it at all, it's just an observation. And it looks good. And speaking of looking good, just look at the handset. Perfectly proportioned, serene style handset, straight from Hamilton Kaki if you ask me. Perfectly color matched to the hour markers and numerals on the dial because they're filled with the same lume, only with a little bit brighter highlight around them. That works very, very well. The contrast between the dial and the handset is impeccable. Plus they pull this another party trick. The section closer to the pinion is also color matched to the dial, so it kinda creates the illusion that they float above the dial. I dig that. It's done great. And then there is the GMT hand. That must be the coolest GMT hand I have ever seen on a GMT watch. You see it at a glance immediately. It's skeletonized, big, so big that you see it immediately even when it's covered by the other two hands. But you cannot see it in the dark because it's not loomed. I don't really see it as a negative. The GMT bezel is not loomed either, so you wouldn't see where it's pointing anyway, but it's an observation. Speaking of lume, overall it's not really bad. Super luminova, long lasting, good looking. It's not exactly like Diver Champion like lume, but it's completely worthy of good traveler watch. And I intentionally let the best part at the end. The color of the dial. That to me is just perfect. And that comes from someone who doesn't normally like blue dial watches. It is matte. Always go matte if you can. I am yet to find a light condition where this color doesn't look good. It almost like eats the light, it doesn't reflect anything, and it always looks very consistently great. There is no drama, no sunburst, nothing. And it doesn't need anything, it's just perfect the way it is. It feels modern and retro at the same time. Together with the entirely brushed case, it works so well. I mean, it really does. And especially when you put it on the matching rubber strap. Okay. Calm down, Karel. I don't want this to sound like a paid advertisement. Because it isn't. The watch was normally purchased by my friend, borrowed to me. But I struggle, and I really do struggle, to find some negatives about this watch. Except for the missing date. You know, on a movement with a date. That's a weird decision to me. And maybe the flimsy clasp. But that's easy fix. And I would wear it on this strap anyway. What this watch made me really is to get my hands on other Nezumi's watches. If they're at least half as good as this one, I think they're really worth to look at. And to me, it is almost shocking that they don't get a lot of exposure on other YouTube channels. The experience I had this watch, from the unboxing to wearing it and using it, is miles ahead from the Zillow's watch I got. We should pay more attention to these. That is it, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. If you didn't like the video, I thank you for watching this far. And please let me know, have you even heard about Nezumi watches, or do you own some? Which model would you suggest to check on next? My name is Karel and this is Watch. Till next time, cheers.